You ever witness something so petty and outrageous you don't know whether to laugh or scream? That's exactly what ran through my head as I tightened the last bolt on a 6-foot-tall wooden fence, one that now split the lakefront in half like a line drawn with a legal scalpel. Behind me, a dozen stunned neighbors just watched, speechless. On the other side, Margaret, cousin to our infamous HOA president Karen, stood frozen, her luxury lounge chairs and jet ski ramp now marooned behind a fresh wall of lumber. But this showdown? It started 5 years ago when I bought my dream home in Willowbrook Estates. The big selling point? Deeded access to the lakefront, beach, dock, the works. Every weekend my kids and I fished, swam, made memories. Then 6 months ago, Karen became HOA president and transformed overnight into a suburban dictator. She banned wind chimes, issued fines for grass being too tall. You needed written permission to plant a flower. But the worst part? She handed out favoritism like candy. Her brother-in-law, now the HOA's official landscaper, her childhood friend, magically got the pool cleaning contract. And then Margaret arrived for an extended stay and claimed half the lake as her private resort. She didn't just set out a towel, no. She built an entire setup. Tiki torches, loungers, speakers, even a jet ski ramp. I approached her politely, told her this was shared space. She waved a paper in my face. Karen gave me exclusive access, she said. File a complaint if you don't like it. So I did. That easement reassignment? Total nonsense. The city confirmed the lakefront was deeded to specific properties, including mine. No HOA vote could override that. I brought all this to the next HOA meeting. Karen? Lost it. Screamed about new bylaws, claimed I'd be fined $500 a day, said the board had full waterfront control. No documentation. No logic. Meanwhile, Margaret's takeover got worse. Loud music, trash on the beach, and then one morning, she physically blocked my 8-year-old daughter from accessing the water. Said it was private property. That was it. As a contracts lawyer, this was my home turf. I spent a week digging through documents, the purchase agreement, the HOA charter, decades of records. What I found? Ironclad proof. The HOA had zero jurisdiction over deeded lake rights. Karen's actions? Legally risky. So I sent a certified notice. They had 72 hours to remove all junk, or face legal action. Of course, they didn't take it seriously. The next day, Karen and Margaret showed up with some guy claiming to be a lawyer. He tossed around buzzwords like squatters' rights. I invited him to leave. Then I launched Phase 2. I hired a licensed surveyor who marked the exact property boundaries. Turns out, Margaret's setup sprawled way over the line. So I went to the hardware store and bought enough fencing to make a point, literally. The next morning, I was out at sunrise with a fence crew, permits in hand. We ran that fence straight through the beach, right through the dock. The symbolism? Delicious. Margaret walked out just in time to see her lakefront paradise split in two. Her coffee mug hit the deck. Karen showed up in curlers, screaming about vandalism, trespassing, even identity theft. She called the police. They reviewed my paperwork and left. She called code enforcement. No violations. She even tried to escalate it. City Hall, maybe the Pentagon for all I know. That evening, the emergency HOA meeting was standing room only. Karen had passed out flyers calling me a neighborhood menace, but it backfired. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd crossed. A retired judge stood up first, calmly laid out all her violations. A neighbor named Sarah shared how Karen's landscapers had bulldozed her flower garden. One by one, people came forward with receipts. Even Margaret's husband showed up. Saw the fence, the mess, and said, "We're leaving." He personally supervised dismantling the whole setup. Karen tried one final move, a so-called executive order, to remove the fence. But the HOA's actual attorney finally stood up, said Karen had overstepped, exposed the board to legal action, and had to go. The vote? Unanimous. Karen was out. And it didn't end there. Turns out, she'd funneled HOA funds into fake easement paperwork and padded her brother-in-law's paycheck. 3 months later, she stood before a judge, guilty of fraud, embezzlement, and breach of fiduciary duty. 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and $47,000 in restitution. Now, I still sit by the lake some mornings, coffee in hand, admiring that perfectly straight fence, and the peace that came with it. And if watching Karen's empire fall gave you life, hit that like button and stick around. Because trust me, the next story might be even crazier.